Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Wario World for the Nintendo GameCube. So, last time we have managed to able to fully conclude Thrillsville by going to take on the forms of two bosses, which appears to be the Spider Boss, as well as that Red Giraffe J, and we managed to able to explore through, Beanstalk Way. So today for this episode, we are about to be continuing things on and moving on to the forms of the fourth and the final main world in the whole entire game, which fundamentally though, I think this world is usually calls it Sparkle World, so even then, because chances are though, well, we'll point things out whenever we get to it though, so as usual we got one level available from the start, so even then though, we might actually come across into the Magician level, so even then, Sparkle Lands, that's as far as I meant to say. So anyways, here we go with the first level in Sparkle Land, which appears to be Mirror Mansion, and the actual main emphasis on this stage is the fact that I believe we might actually come across into a lot of mirrors. You know, it's kind of like this is exactly the same idea as the forms of how it does it in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, despite the fact that in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, as the actual game is like a Metroidvania type game, whilst in this, it's basically we actually come across into this one particular gimmick, and that is the forms of likely, you know, just trying to utilize the actual mirror mechanics and all that stuff. To me, though, I'm probably not going to able to actually destroy those blocks because, well, obviously for the actual treasure switch, and as well as from that, the another bonus area. And this time around, we have the exactly the same Simon Says kind of activity here, but except this time we have 10 blocks as opposed to just 5. So even then, though, if you follow the correct sequence, like I almost are going to mess up with the actual correct order, but it turns out I managed to able to actually just, well, achieve that, so good thing for me though, I managed to able to do this on the first attempt. Although admittedly though, it's the fact that if you mess up at least one time, well, good thing for you, you can able to retry that again, by simply able to actually utilize the actual escape spring, and then just retry from here, so even then you can able to actually just utilize that, so anywho though, so today's day is the forms of the 15th of November today, in this case in 2019. Today that marks the forms of the actual today's release across the world actually, that Pokemon Sword and Shield has recently released today. But I haven't exactly still looked upon the reviews of that game all that much though, because, well, usually I'm just busy playing some other titles recently, such as the forms of Luigi's Mansion 3 still, and especially noticeable with likely the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake all of a sudden, just because of how the fact that these are the only two games I have to able to actually complete before I move on to the forms of other Switch titles here and there as well, like still need to get back onto Kirby Star Allies on my own time, and then when I'm completely done with that game, then I can simply just able to point things out. We'll definitely have to deal with the second Kirby marathon of Let's Plays during at some point next year or something or sometime, but even then we'll have to wait and see what happens there until when the actual year is about to come by. So, and yeah, as I mentioned this before, since how the level's name is usually calls it Mirror Mansion, the actual main gimmick on this is that you have to get a lot of camera controls here, because sometimes though, if you get stuck on the forms of the actual camera work, well, you can able to actually aim it downwards until you're able to see your other view from the forms of the actual mirror itself. So that's the only gimmick about this level, as you can tell. Well, not so much on the forms of the bonus stage right there, because, oh boy, we actually come across into this, oh, that was a really bad timing for my jumping skills right there, which either way though, that's what the bonus levels rather, it starts to get a lot more, difficult as you progress for this point now, because, well, as you can tell, I'm almost gonna get fluked off by that specific faster wheel physics. Luckily for me though, I managed to able to you know, just pass that instantly, so. But aside from the forms of Pokemon Sword and Shield has recently released on the 15th of November today, as for this recording. But again though, I'm probably not gonna pick it up though, because even then I'm gonna have to save up for something, most notably with the first Nintendo Switch game on 2020, it will be the brain training game coming to the Nintendo Switch, which I have no idea when the actual North American release date is supposed to be though, but even then we'll have to wait and see what happens there until when that time comes, mainly with the forms of specifically later down the road. So anyways, let's grab some more coins and what have you. And yeah, we managed to able to still get ourselves about 10,000 coins or more than that, just because, you know, this game is super generous with us when it comes to giving you a lot of coins and all that stuff. So even then, let's activate the next switch for the next treasure coming up. I didn't see the actual, I didn't see that actual foreground right there. Oh, jeez, that was totally my fault right there. And yeah, I'm also able to still lose some coins due to the forms of some sections like these ones here. But hopefully it won't be that much giving me that much trouble with. So, in fact, eventually at this point, especially noticeable, we're almost getting close towards the end of this game though. Mind you, we're probably not going to come across into those little underground, you know, deadly sections again until whenever we, since this is overall the final main world in the whole entire game. Chances are, though, we might actually come across into the forms of specifically, so a little bit more. It's hard to explain about this sometimes, because I know for the fact that I, haven't exactly looked upon that much news-related stuff, unfortunately, because, well, at this point in time, we have to wait until specifically when it gets, like, new stuff to the table, and during the forms of, specifically in 2020, so I guess that makes it pretty obvious for that little specific answer, so. And also, this boss is very similar to the forms of how it does it on the previous boss from the likes of Shivering Mountains. As you can tell, we do need to utilize those little barrel-looking enemies once again. But except this time around, though, we need to aim it on its hands rather than just the forms of the actual mouth. So, because believe it or not, though, this one might be a little bit easy and simple, but the only thing you need to be very careful of is, of course, the actual attacks of what this, you know, the spooky portrait is actually causing us for, like either the flame or the actual electrical current or anything like that. So even then, you have to avoid those things at all costs. So, in fact, fundamentally though, one thing I need to mention about this briefly is that, do you remember I said this before about the fact that Wario World got delayed back in the day from 2004? Because I mentioned this before about the forms of, specifically because of they need to model the actual, Famicom model for the actual one of those treasure items and all that stuff. And then apparently though, the actual release dates, as far as I'm aware, I think the European version just came out first, and North American might actually come out. I don't know what the actual specific dates on this though, but even then I might as well able to actually double check it if I manage to can though. Yeah, it looks like the European version comes out first. North American comes out the second, and also Australia version came out later. And then, as usually to be expected, is that Japan version came out for last. You know, it's kind of like the same thing for how it does in other games like Sonic Colors, Mario Party 9, as well as the forms of excuse me, Mario Party Star Rush. I think that's another one of those games. Although, except the fact that Japanese release of Mario Party Star Rush came out on the third release for this point, and usually the American version came out last, so even then though that it's going all over the place when it comes to release dates back then. But every now and then, especially noticeable this is on, we're now on to, you know, the Nintendo Switch territory. This means about the fact that every single region, depends on what games they're going to be releasing on, they managed to release on exactly the same time as each other, so excuse me, I'm really sorry about that, folks, because, either way, though, I'm not exactly 100% still, because of the fact that my throat has had a lot of issues for the time's sake, especially noticeable in the past few weeks or so. But thankfully, it's not nowhere near as annoying as the forms of how it does it on the previous weeks ago, but it still looks pretty obnoxious as it goes, so anyway, so this is what the mirror segments comes in, because even then, though, if you really can't see what's above from you, well, you can able to actually utilize the actual mirror so you can see it from that specific view. So it's pretty cool so that we can able to actually just to see how the fact that, well, if you're pretty much used to with the actual controls, thankfully though, it's not reversed or anything, it's just pretty much the normal controls, so that's the only good thing about it. So even then, yeah, there's not much else I can say about this level, it's just that we need to get a lot of usage on reflections with the forms of the actual mirror itself, so and that's pretty simple for the most part. So, and eventually at this point, although the reason why, because of how the fact that I'm actually going to be pointing things out right away, is the fact that until, you know, Tuesday, the, I would say the forms of, the actual, I really, do apologize for this point, guys, because I know for the fact that we're pretty much running out of ideas for the actual news, updates, or anything like that, I'm afraid. Oh, yeah. One thing that me and Piglet has not mentioned about this at all, when it comes to the forms of the actual continuation of these Let's Plays back-to-back between, you know, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, which recently that Let's Play has now been finished, so even then though, kudos to Piglet, he's now finally managed to finish up with that Let's Play, and he never actually mentioned about one specific element with the forms of that specific service, and that appears to be Disney Plus. In fact, Disney Plus has been serviced for about 3 days ago right now, ever since on the 12th of November, so that's one thing that Piglet has not mentioned about this at all during his Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, which I need to point that out because even then though, that service is now usually a thing now. So even then though, kudos to that. So, and I promised you guys to this already, and I'll go say that right now. I'm very glad I managed to able to get myself Terry Bogard from the likes of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and for I play him, he's actually pretty good as a character though, and yeah, you're gonna be hearing me doing that because even then my throat actually does sound a little bit, you know, blocks all of a sudden every time when I just manage to able to not drink all that much, but hopefully I can able to drink it back whenever I manage to finish up with my commentary for the sake of these things right here, so... Anyway though, for the actual Terry Bogard, and in addition with this new stage that he's actually got with him, which appears to be King of Fighters stage, which I would say, that stage looks remarkably different from the likes of how it does on the previous Smash Bros. Stages, because normally in the other Super Smash Bros. Stages, that you normally have to like, knock anyone else out when they out of the actual stage. But apparently though, in the King of Fighters stage, it does that incredibly differently because now they actually incorporate the actual invisible wall. And the more you deal the damage, if depending on what distance you're in, then you're able to actually let one of those opponents manage to break through the wall, and that counts as the forms of the actual KO. Which I would say is a very interesting concept in theory because it almost matches up to the forms of the arcade you know, good old classics ever since any forms of the SNK Neo Geo company gaming. So, it's pretty cool though, especially because of the fact that I always intend to enjoy having a laugh at it with the forms of that specific stage itself. Now we can hope we can able to actually see the actual 5th and final DLC for, you know, DLC pass number 1. So that we'll able to find out until the game awards until next month or something. So even then though, that will make it happen. So, you know, you probably get the idea for that solution, so anyways, here's the next obstacle challenge right here. Basically, we need to go from platform to platform while simply able to deal with the actual spiral rotating platforms, as you can clearly see on the actual screen right there. Now, if you couldn't tell already by the forms of the actual differently when it comes to like the recording sections for that department for this game sometimes. Oh, really? I seem to able to get a bad jump angle right there. I think probably using that ability will be a bad idea because either way, I might as well get a chance to able to miss that platform instantly. But, oh well, things big as those can't be choosers, I suppose, but either way, we got a plethora of coins until whenever we able to possibly get ourselves a game over until at some point throughout the, well, let's just say in the second level on this, Sparkle Land, so, either way though, that make it happen though. So anyways, we got ourselves a golden piece of a statue now, and hopefully we need to get ourselves the next red diamond, and to be expected at this point, like I said this before, ever since on Monday, that's the requirements of the actual diamonds this time around in Sparkle Land. It requires about 6 red diamonds. So get used to that for this point, folks, because you need to collect a lot. I mean, a lot of red diamonds this time around. Because if you keep thinking of the forms of the first world, that usually holds up for about 3 red diamonds to access. And then in the forms of World 2, you can only like get to it by simply collecting about 4 of those red diamonds, and then World 3 is basically 5, and now in World 4 we need to like collect about 6 diamonds, as you can clearly see on this little pause menu. So yeah, you probably need to able to actually collect a lot throughout, and also you need to able to explore a lot of it, so even then I just want to point things out. And speaking of those kinds of secrets, is the fact that one thing I have not even mentioned about this, and even I haven't shown you guys at all for the sake of the forms of this Let's Play, is that if you leave the actual pulse screen for about 15 or 15 minutes or something like that, I'm pretty sure it's 15 minutes, which is usually kind of long as it goes. Basically what happens is the fact that if you leave the actual pulse screen for long enough, Wario might actually say something such as like, oops, sorry. Like, even then though, because if you pause the actual game, Wario just starts to go a little bit more of a yeah, kind of that particular tune right there. But if you leave it on for about 50 minutes, then obviously he'll say sorry. And even then though, that's as far as the actual cool secret we can able to actually just know about, especially because I managed able to, well, I haven't really grown up with this game as a kid though, but even then though, it is a pretty cool Wario platformer game as it goes when the actual years come by, so... But you know, you get the drill from that point, and if, usually kind of think about it though, is the fact that in the Japanese release of Wario World, I realized it has been out for 15 years since the Japanese version is released right now, so it's one thing I just want to classify for something, so even then... Oh yeah, about with the forms of the actual recording sessions by this point. After all, we've only got about, 3 more levels to go. Specifically, well, 4 levels actually. The one I'm doing right now is the Mirror Mansion. Oh, I'm almost gonna die right there, but hopefully we can able to find more garlic catch points. So hopefully we can able to actually find one of them. But even then, we're really hoping we can. But either way though, let's just see what's down here. Of course, there is actually another secret door just beyond down here. So even then, we can able to deal with... Oh, yeah, this is a pretty cool one. Where basically, we need to utilize the fist jump. And then you can able to actually activate all the switches. And in fact, you need to activate all 3 of them. Just for the sake of clarity, you can able to get ourselves the next spirit ring. As well as from that, we can also get ourselves the next red diamond. So even then though, we can able to actually grab that for the sake of clarity, and we'll leave this room entirely, so because we're basically done with this completely, so not bad, not too shabby either. So anyways though, so yeah, I'm just gonna have to say this right now, that I'm simply a little bit more awkward for this point today, because then again, it's just my throat issues, that's the only reason. So anyway, so let's go ahead and grab this next piece of the golden statue right here. And here we actually come across into those, the only exclusive enemies in this world, which appears to be, I would say, the Phantoms or something like that, which could only be seen when you're able to see them in the actual mirror mode. Because even then, if you don't see them on mirror mode, well, you just have to mainly focusing on the actual mirrors themselves. And speaking of unique enemies in this particular world so far, or this level rather, these are the forms of witches. Oh yeah, the witches are the names of the actual invisible enemies that you can only see them in the actual other side of the actual mirror. So, as well as from that, there's also the vampire, which we'll point things out whenever we get to them, as well as the wheel mouse, which honestly, the wheel mouse wasn't that much of a threat to me though. I'm not exactly sure why I'm saying that. But even then, there's also another unique enemy into the table, which is usually called a Ninja Crow, which even then, I will say the Ninja Crows might be a little bit annoying to deal with, but apart from those side of things, though, these guys aren't too bad to deal with, honestly. But either way, enough about that, so let's go ahead and activate the next bonus room door, and let's go ahead and... Oh, really? Oh, jeez. The game doesn't allow me to able to use that for that, the actual Stone Warrior's head until I'm able to actually, hopefully, try to able to enter in the actual bonus door to begin with. Which sometimes the game does it, while other times, though, you always have to able to realize about the fact that not usually everything else doesn't work 100% completely, though, but, hey, at least some things usually happens. Oh, this is a very familiar bonus thing right there. It's kind of like the similar thing for where we already done it ever since. I think it was actually in World 2, perhaps. Now, we've already technically done this before. But now, this time around, though, we need to deal with those a lot. Especially because if you really want to go after everything, like the red diamond. Oh, I just instantly overshoot myself. Oh, jeez. Hopefully, we can able to actually grab that, the golden statue, no problem. So, well, at least as far as one of the pieces, anyway. So yeah, for the sake of time, for the spoiler warning, for the sake of this Let's Play, for the most part, until next Tuesday, I'm actually going to be focusing on one level this time around, not the forms of, one level and a boss at the same time. This is clearly obvious because until whenever we get to the second level in the Sparkle Land world, I think it's where it gets a little bit more ridiculously long if you really want to go after everything. So, nonetheless, I can able to actually don't mind dealing with the double boss fights kind of thing about it. Oh yeah, with the forms of the mini boss fight, as you can see right there, his actual name was actually Terrible Portrait. I'm not kidding, that's what the actual mini boss's name apparently. So it's a little bit strange, but either way though, it's just a little bit of a convenience that is. So, but then again, you need to use these enemies just like the forms of how it does it from the Angular Manga Fish, from the likes of how it does it in Shivering Mountains level. Although, except this time around, you need to aim it in. It doesn't really matter what arms you're going to be aiming for. It really does not even matter to you at all. So even then, though, you can able to actually deal the damage on either the left arm or the right arm. So even then, because I highly recommend you able to use the ground pound technique, because if you do that, the actual white stuff enemies that usually just pop out of the barrel, that technically deals the damage. So even then though, it's not that much of a difficult as far as the actual mini fights like this goes. So even then though, yeah, I guess there's not much else I can really say about this level though, honestly. But until then, that's, excuse me, I just ate some chili dogs, I do apologize for that. Because chances are though, it's a very simple, easy level, pretty slow I should say, until, you know, the next level after this though, this one I'm really going to be able to be so nervous about, because either way I will, definitely need to point that out until whenever we get to those. So even then I just need to double check on either each side of the camera, and it doesn't seem like it from up here though, so we'll just have to likely just say like, oh, this block is just useless. But at least we can able to get ourselves the final two switches, which is one of them is in here. And I think there's also the final switch, which appears to be on the higher level, which hopefully we're able to actually obtain that though. But first of all, let's grab some more gold. So even then we can able to, you know, still save up for something, for specifically some more pieces of the garlic and stuff like that. Sometimes this section can get pretty obnoxious at times, because you really can't really tell what's the actual depth of it, unless if you're trying to, you know, keep on tilting the actual the camera control right there. So even then, we actually activate both of those buttons now. So let's just backtrack for a moment. It's not that far from here though, luckily though, but even then we'll point things out whenever we get to the actual oh, what's this? A cool glasses. That's the only cool part about it. So even then we'll just continue moving forward, and hopefully we'll get ourselves the final treasure in this particular level, if you can clearly tell. Oh jeez. Anyway, let's just go ahead and stop that stupid airship. Anyway, let's just go ahead and ignore that from now on. And turns out we got ourselves, well, the final treasure in this level, and also the bonus area. So even then we were able to gather ourselves, well, let's just say the last of the spiritlings, and also not to mention with the forms of what else? The red diamond itself too. And I think we pretty much gathered all the golden pieces of the statues apparently, because that's the only thing that I was going to think of. Or maybe because we actually just managed to able to actually just briefly for this. So anyways, now it's time to spend on more on those coins for hopefully trying to you know, refresh our health for a moment. So even then we'll able to utilize that, I suppose, to able to take on the forms of the next boss. So anyway, so let's go ahead and climb onto these little glue globes. And, you know, as I mentioned this before, we do need to collect about 6 of those red diamonds in order to access to this next boss. So, but, you know, you get the drill for this point. So even then, what's the next boss is it going to be? Well, it appears to be his name was Mean Ekrik, which I can't really pronounce his last name very well. I do apologize for that. But he looks kind of creepy looking right here. Plus with his noise too, it just almost makes me feel cringe every time I hear his noise. In fact, every time when you hit him, well, basically it just goes like, oh, I just felt pretty bad for him. Though, well, it's like his crying noises actually depresses me. But anyway, so if you get enough hits on him, well, basically he'll do some sort of a shuffle challenge, where basically we need to keep an eye out with that specific boss's location on one of those little hats, And if you get the correct answer, well, if you think you basically got it correct, well, you need to hit it again. So just in case it'll pop out of the forms of that specific cups. So even then, it's a pretty cool boss fight though, I'm not gonna lie. Although, yet again, the actual challenge might be certainly a little bit more on the easier side of things. And what's he doing? He almost committed suicide right there, but even then, he managed to get back up with the arena. So eventually at this point, whenever we get to the next phases or something, it gets insanely fast. Well, not as fast as in the first two right here, but until whenever we get to the fourth phase and the final phase, it gets ridiculously fast. I mean, you can definitely know why whenever we get to it. So even then, let's just you know, keep on beating the likes out of him though. So even then, we'll deal with this next shuffleware thing, and I think it's on the right. So even then, we do need to do this, and vice versa though, really. That's all there is to this guy. Anyway, so let's grab some more coins in case of anything else turns out. So even then, we'll just accept that. Although the only attack you need to be careful of is, of course, the actual spinning attack, and that's all that he does. So that seems a little bit obvious. I think if you get it wrong, well, I'm pretty sure it might actually take a little bit longer to fight against with him. So anyways, let's go ahead and smack him down. There is a possible way you can able to actually toss him out of the arena, but it might actually decide to able to break free from that, or I don't know. I haven't really tested it out for myself, so chances are though, I'm probably not gonna able to do that though, so I'm just gonna have to simply do the ground pound technique like I always do. Oh jeez. Is it in the middle? Yep, it's in the middle. So even then, let's go ahead and finish him off by simply smacking to its ground. And boom! There he goes. And then he'll disappear like nothing else. So there we go. We basically take care of the forms of mean Craig, which again I do apologize with his last name's pronunciation, because then again some of these names are pretty weird. And that concludes the forms of, well, Mirror Mansion. So it's a pretty cool level. I'm not gonna lie for saying that, but even then, yeah, pretty cool stuff. And once again, we got ourselves a nice, glorious golden statue of Wario with this very cool pose. And we got ourselves a half a heart. And this opens up. Oh boy, this level. I remember dreading this level so much. So anyways though, we're going to end things off at this point right there, I'm afraid guys. So join me next time on Let's Play Wario World for the GameCube. And now it's the forms of our fact that we need to take on probably the longest level in the whole entire game, and it's also probably one of my least favorite levels in the whole entire game. I'm not saying that because of the forms of the level itself, I'm complaining about the collectibles in this stage. So see you guys on Tuesday. Later fellas.